How to start programming. Decide on your niche, whether that be web development, mobile development, embedded systems. Doesn't matter. Just figure out what you think you would like and try it out. For instance, mobile development, you have Android and iOS. Do you want to develop mostly for Android or iOS or both? Because you can do both. For web development, do you want to be more back-end focused or front-end focused? If you're just starting out, I would recommend to just focus on the basics. For instance, if you want to do front-end development, focus on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Figure out the most popular language in that niche, period. That should be the very first thing that you do once you figure out where you want to go. Once you do that, things just become a little bit easier for you. Usually, if it's the most popular language in that niche, it means that there's going to be a lot of resources generally available for you. And to be honest, the programming language that you choose is not that important. Being stuck in this decision-making process of which language you should pick is doing nothing but keeping you from actually building something and starting. So my general advice is just pick something and just start building something. So if you choose something that's typically used with a framework, like if you're doing back-end development and you chose Java for whatever reason, well, the most popular framework for Java is Spring Boot. Don't go off looking for these little specialized new up-and-coming frameworks. Just pick the most popular one and read the documentation. Go step by step on the very bare basics. Start off simple. If you're doing web development, build a Hello World site. Super simple. Don't go building a to-do list if it's too complicated for you. Now, the most important thing that you can do when you're starting off with anything is make sure that you're not only pacing yourself, but you're setting goals that you can actually reach. If you set goals that are too hard for you in the beginning, then there's going to be a lot more resistance, and you might feel a little bit discouraged or feel burnout a lot quicker than if you were to make smaller goals. So if you're in high school or you're brand new to programming, very simple Hello World, whatever niche you want to get into. Hello World iOS app, Hello World Spring Boot app, doesn't matter. Start basic. Another thing you want to consider is how much time you put into your learning process. Now, you don't want to put in too little time, but also you don't want to put in too much time when you're just starting off. Because what happens is you might put in a lot of hours in, and the way that the brain works is kind of funny. It only absorbs information for a certain period of time before it just loses focus completely, and you're not interested anymore. You're no longer learning. You're just wasting your time. So understanding that, what you want to do is set a short period of time when you're first starting off for you to get comfortable to understand these concepts, because they're foreign to you. But eventually you'll get to the point where things start to click and make sense, and you can ask the right questions, and you can increase the amount of time that you spend studying a little bit more. So again, the idea is to just start. Just start simple. Start simple and do something that you can actually do. Remember, anybody that is good at something has been in that position where it's completely foreign to them. Nobody comes out of the womb knowing exactly how to do things and are gifted in that way. It takes practice, it takes determination and motivation. Make small goals that you can actually achieve so your brain can actually absorb the information and retain it over a long period of time. Consistency is also very important. Now think about it. Person A, who spends an hour a month learning how to program, versus person B, who spends an hour a day learning how to program, after a year, person A is only going to have 12 hours under their belt for programming. Person B is going to have 365 hours under their belt after a year. So who do you think is going to be the better programmer? And that's assuming they're doing the exact same learning technique. I'm not telling you to spend an hour a day every single day. Start off small. Start off 10 minutes. Once you get to the point where you feel like your brain is retaining that information that you learned within that 10 minutes, you can increase the time. Because again, you don't want your brain to get to that fatigue phase where you're just sitting there reading and not retaining the information. You want to get to the point where you're Googling the basic things as little as possible. And that's okay if you still Google the basic things. We all do it. We all forget things every once in a while, but the idea is you want to minimize the amount of information you have to Google, because that takes a lot of time in your day that you could be spending building the product. So really the whole point is, don't spread yourself too thin. That's the last thing you want to do. Programming is fun, it's challenging, it's a great career path, and there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. The number one thing I tell people, and I tell myself, is to at least try. If you at least try, you should see some sort of growth over a period of time. I would even recommend maybe looking back at some of the stuff that you worked on when you first started versus where you are today or in the future, whatever. Save your first application on your desktop. Do this studying technique. After some period of time, whether it be a month, 3 months, or 5 months, doesn't really matter. Compare your work then versus your work now. I think you'd be very surprised at how much you've learned over time and how quickly. Like you don't realize how time flies when you're enjoying what you do, and when you're doing it right too. So yeah, stay focused, keep trying, don't get discouraged, and keep moving forward. That's it.